Hello, welcome to my C# string handling series. This lesson is search methods in the C# string class. Hi, my name's Paul Sheriff, and I have a passion for teaching. I have been training for over 35 years. I've written 14 books, hundreds of video training courses, articles, and blog posts. I've been a speaker at major conferences and user groups. I'm a mentor for high school and college students. I've owned a software consulting business for over 30 years. You can contact me at psheriff@pdsa.com or visit my website at www.pdsa.com. For this lesson, I'm going to assume that you are familiar with C# and .NET. In this lesson, we're going to learn the string class search methods, such as IndexOf, LastIndexOf, IndexOfAny, LastIndexOfAny. Now, the following two methods return a zero-based index. Where the character or characters are found, it'll return a -1 if the specified character or characters are not found. There's IndexOf, which searches from the start of the string, and LastIndexOf, which searches from the end of the string. So let's start with the first one, the String.IndexOf Method. I have a string, the quick brown fox. Now above that I've placed numbers so you can see at which index number each of those letters appears. We're going to call the index of and pass a capital H to that on that string, and we're going to come back with a -1 because it's not going to find a capital H. If we do an index of H, it's going to be equal to 1 because that's the position in which that letter falls in that string. Index of capital H, but performing a string comparison .invariant culture ignore case will also return a 1. Instead of just a single letter, we can also search for a string of letters. So for example, the index of brown will return 10. We can do an index of O, which will give us 12, because that's where the first O appears. If we do an index of O, 16, it says to start with the 16th element and go forward to the end and try to find an O. It does. It finds it at 17. We can also do a range. We can say, let's look within 16 and for the next 3 characters. So lots of ways that we can do this. Let's take a look at the code now. So all I did is I created a string sentence equals the quick brown fox, and then I do my console.writeLine to put out those numbers and the sentence. Now on line 12, you can see on the console.writeLine, I'm doing sentence.indexOf capital H. So this is what I'm doing, applying that IndexOf method to that string and saying, give me back the location of where this letter is located. If you don't find it, report a -1. So you can see the first one was the capital H. On line 13, you can see sentence.indexOf lowercase h. That's the one that gave us the 1. And then you can see on lines 14 through 16, I just split the line here, where we actually do the sentence.indexOf capital H, but I use the invariant culture ignore case. By doing that, it says, doesn't matter what the case is, let's try to find out if it's in this sentence. Line 19, I do sentence.indexOf brown, and that gives me back the 10. And then you can see the console.writeLine on line 22, that's doing a sentence.indexOf O. So it finds the first O in the quick brown fox. But then on the last two, on 23 and 24, I'm doing a sentence.indexOf, and I'm passing in a second parameter, 16, which says start from that element and go forward. The first one, 16 with nothing after it, means go to the end of the string. The other one says just simply go for the next 3 characters. Let's now take a look at using the String.LastIndexOf method. Here I've got the same sentence, the quick brown fox. You can see I do a LastIndexOf capital F, and that returns 16 to me. If I do a last index on a lowercase f, it's going to give me a -1 because it's not going to find a lowercase f within that sentence. If I do a last index of a lowercase f, but use the second parameter of string comparison .invariant culture ignore case, it's going to return 16, obviously. And again, I can search for a word as well. Last index of brown gives me 10. I can do a last index of lowercase o, and it'll give me 17. I can also do a last index of o, 14, which says start at position 14 and go to the starting position in that array of characters, so in this case, go all the way to 0, and it'll give me a 12. I can also do a last index of O, comma 14, comma 5. It says start at 14 and go back 5 characters. And so that also gives me a 12. Let's take a look at the code. So again, on line 1, I define that sentence string as the quick brown fox. I then do the console.write lines. On line 12, I'm doing the sentence.LastIndexOf capital F. And if you remember, that returns us a value of 16. And console.write line on line 13, I do a sentence.LastIndexOf lowercase f. And of course, that gives me back the -1. If I do a string invariant culture case on that, that'll give us back that 16. Last index of brown gives us back 10. And then the last 3 lines here, where I'm doing the last index of an O, and then an O, comma 14, and an O, comma 14, comma 5, gives me the appropriate indexes within that string. So pretty simple to do these searches through these strings. Now the following 2 methods use a character array of characters to locate. It searches for the first occurrence of any of the characters in the array. It'll return a 0-base index where that first character is found. It'll return a -1 if none of the characters or characters are found. IndexOfAny searches from the start of the string. LastIndexOfAny searches from the end of the string. Let's now take a look at using String.IndexOfAny method. So again, I have the same sentence, the quick brown fox. I'm going to perform an index of any on the letter E, but remember it has to be a character array that we're passing in, so I'm doing the E as a string dot to character array, and that will come back as a 2 because the E appears as the second element in that string array. Index of any HE. Now it says, let's go look for an H first. Does it find an H? It does at position 1. So it stops searching, doesn't even look for an E now, and just gives me back the first one it finds, in this case at position 1. Index of any Z and then an uppercase Q. That's going to return 4. It searches for the Z, doesn't find it, then searches for the Q. It finds it at position 4. Index of any ZD, all lowercase, converted to a character array, is going to come back in -1 because neither of those items appear in that sentence. Let's take a look at the code. On line 1, we declare our sentence string, the quick brown fox. And now take a look down on line 13. This is where I actually perform the sentence.IndexOfAny, passing in the string E converted to a character array. So that is going to give us back what? That number 0, 1, 2. Then on the console.write line on line 16, I'm going to go and look for the sentence.IndexOfAny, HE, convert that to a character array. So again, this is on line 17 where it's going to take that, convert it to 2 separate indices in our character array. It searches first for the H, and if it finds it, it stops searching. Otherwise, it goes on and it searches for the E. And we can see that even better in line 21 when I do sentence.IndexOfAny Z, Q, uppercase Q. So again, it's going to search for a Z through the whole string. It's not going to find it, so it's then going to move on to the next element in that character array, which is an uppercase Q, and it finds that, and it returns that index number. Finally, the last example on line 25, sentence.IndexOfAny ZD. It won't find either of those, so it returns the -1. And finally, let's take a look at the String.LastIndexOfAny method. So once again, using the same sentence, the quick brown fox, if I do a last index of any O to character array, it comes out as position 17. Last index of any XO, it finds the X, so it stops there and says, yep, we found that one at position 18, doesn't even search for the O. Last index of any ZW, first searches for a Z, doesn't find it, then it searches for the W, finds that at position 13. And then last index of any ZD, doesn't find either of those, so it returns a -1. So let's take a look at the source code. So here's the code that actually created that. On line 13, sentence.LastIndexOfAny O dot to character array. Then line 16, sentence.LastIndexOfAny XO to character array. Then line 19, sentence.LastIndexOfAny ZW two-character array, and of course the last one, 22, sentence.LastIndexOfAny ZD to a character array. So that's the searching of last index of. It's searching from the back of the string and moving forward. Do you know why you should subscribe to YouTube channels? You'll get notifications when new videos appear. You'll get recommendations for related channels. It helps the channel grow, which allows me to create more videos for you. It helps attract others to my channel. Your like helps others find videos that are good. So please take the time to like and subscribe to my channel, Paul D. Sheriff. So I hope you enjoyed this short lesson on using the search methods in the C# string class.